Equal means equal. This documentary was coming around at the same time, I think, as Cassie J's. I know they were promoted together on this one video I saw on YouTube.
And has anyone petitioned to get this movie banned from an entire continent?
Yes, I wonder.
He said, assuming the answer no. You know the game, folks. Every time you hear some cringy bullshit that you've heard 100 times before, drink.
If you find a new way that women are victims...
Oh, then take a shot.
Then take a shot.
Women were more likely to be injured in an automobile accident.
What?
The first thing we see is look how many women die.
Drink!
In...
All of the studies had been done on men.
The differences are dangerously understudied.
What, you mean the studies on seatbelt safety? What studies would they use men for? In those, like, there is like an... Okay, my brain is a little bit confused right now.
Can I just read the producer name up there?
5 seconds in.
Sherry Finkelstein. I just wanted to say Finkelstein.
It is an amusing name.
Guys, keep the Jew jokes to a minimum. I just like the way it rolls off the tongue.
Finkelstein.
Finkelstein.
Speaking of racism, why didn't you show a montage of Asian people dying in car crashes?
Yeah, right.
Because, you know, Asian women, both very bad drivers. Oh, Mike. Oh, Mike.
Are dangerously understudied. Sex matters.
Women in the United States of America make only 77 cents.
Drink.
That wasn't a new one.
No, I'm drinking for all the cringy bullshit I've heard. Like we did with the Masculine Living. You don't even need to say exactly which things you drink for. You just know. You just know.
It's something that you feel in your bones, in your gut.
Anything that makes you groan, because you've heard it 100 times
I
before.
want to read that quote. You could argue that money is more important for men. To attribute everything to a so-called bias in the workplace is just not true. Now, is that a ridiculous statement?
Well, considering that men get, what, 1/20th of the government services? Women, or 1/200th, according to the only analysis that I've ever seen in the issue. I would imagine that money would be more important to men because they need more money than women that they earn themselves to stay alive.
Yeah.
And also attract a mate.
To attract women.
We pay $1 billion more a year in health insurance premiums than men.
Vaginal probing, this is something that will penetrate beyond politics.
You mean your workplaces pay more and your husbands pay more and you also use way more.
Vaginal probing.
If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
Oh, here we go. Mr. Legitimate Rape Guy. Because he speaks for every person, even though he's universally ridiculed as an idiot.
How are we going to make this funny? And how are we going to get through it if they serve out this sort of shit tapas? These
this is just the intro.
Servings of shit.
It's just the intro.
They always do fast-paced, gish galloping montages at the beginning.
There is no war on women. There may be a war on what's inside of women, but there is no war on women in this country.
What the fuck does that mean?
Well, what he's saying is a war on. He's saying that there's a war or a debate about the pro-life, pro-choice thing, and that is a war on what's inside of women. That's that. I mean, I don't think it's poorly phrased. I think I know what he means by that. It's usually when it comes to women in politics in the States, it almost always comes down to talking about the pro-life, pro-choice debate. That's like the biggest discussion. So I figured that's what he meant. And he's not wrong. So
yeah, but that's mostly an argument between two camps of women.
Yeah, he's just acknowledging that an argument exists between two camps of women and men.
Well, I think what the point is that they're saying is that his opinion on abortion, that.
But there is a war on women. That's their point.
Yeah. Oh, the fact that he's denying it because he's a man.
Yeah.
Or a Republican.
Or
just a little R next to the names of all the people saying bad things.
If there was a war on women, I think they won.
Oh, I think they might have won if they got.
Again, it's how do you present? And I know this feminists do this all the time. They present a person who makes an argument that's not wrong, and then they show it as though you're just supposed to be aghast that they even made the argument. Like, Do you hear this guy? He's saying that there's no war on women. I can't even. There's no point in responding. I'm blown away that he even well, it is a man after all, so he doesn't know our lived experience. It's just Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, saint of freedom.
So watch this. There is no war on drugs. Oh, really? Well, we've got clips of Nixon fucking saying there is.
Yeah.
We've got any fucking president declaring war on women. No. Right.
No, but the Republican Party has.
Mm.
Because Republican women don't want abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Access. It's as simple as that.
They just don't know what's good for
No,
them.
no, it's patriarchal oppression, even though more men, at least up until the most recent years, more men believed in pro-choice than women did. It's patriarchal oppression.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you took the choice to the pro-choice choice and gave it to just men, guess what there would be? There would be unilateral pro-choice because they would in majority vote for it, where there'd be more men than for it than not for it. Gave it to women, you get a fight. But women outsource their fights to male politicians.
The war on women is shameless, baseless propaganda.
Is it? What the fuck was that for?
That was her expressing her opinion on something without words, so that but letting us know we should feel as angry as she is.
It was a piece of stock footage they could afford.
Okay.
I think that was actually her though, the woman who made the film.
I think we should fight fire with fire. I think we should
Just
all of us
disgust.
just express disgust towards the camera.
Oh my god, my eye. I think I just stink-eyed myself and it got back. It came back from the reflection.
It was a stink-eye boomerang.
Ugh, too much.
Not only is there a war on women, but we are losing battles and rights we won years ago.
No, you're not.
Should I just continue?
No, we should just keep going.
My name is Kamala Lopez, and I've spent the past 6 years looking at the status of American women and analyzing the effects of gender discrimination. And from rape to the pay gap to domestic violence, all of these things are linked to the shocking reality that women and men still do not have equal rights under the United States Constitution.
You are absolutely right. 100% right.
In this film, we'll take a cold, hard look at the issues hurting women the most today.
Okay.
Female incarceration at the top right there.
Female incarceration?
How are you going to do this?
I think you better drink on that.
All right.
Right?
The law.
Pregnancy discrimination.
What?
Can I point something out? Where are you going to gestate it? In a box?
Let's start with the big one. Money. Women are now 47% of the American paid workforce. 66 million women are working. But how are they actually doing in the marketplace? Pretty badly. 42 million working women are slipping into poverty with their children.
That's because a poor woman is more likely to get custody of her children than a poor man.
And therefore take on the burden?
Yeah, well, therefore take on the burden.
And then the state comes in.
And helps.
And they help out, and she gets welfare, and then she says, why work? And then she basically is on the system that is just barely keeping her afloat.
But I don't understand. They've turned something that is possibly the greatest benefit that women have. They don't need to be rich to have access to their children. Men need to be able to plop down $25,000 just to get reasonable access to their children right out of the starting gate. So that's going to prevent most poor men from even contemplating being able to continue their relationship, the father-child relationship post-divorce. So what is your point?
This really is a war against women.
I think we need to invent a women worsting prayer. No, okay. Women worsting. Come on, everybody. Fold your hands. Let's do it.
But I don't believe in it.
Oh no! But for the sake of this moment, we're in the church.
Our non-binary trans god in the sky who acts in some shelter somewhere.
Women worsting.
Women worsting.
All together now.
All right.
Lindsay, you have to do it too. Like,
Women have it worse.
Women have it worse.
Women have it worse. Women have it worse. Women worsting.
greater
Women
good.
worsting. Women worsting.
The greater good.
You had the attacks on women's reproductive health care, and then you have
Women worsting. Women worsting. Women worsting. All men!
Drink this, for it is the blood of women.
this onslaught.
What is with their obsession with like 50s housewives? It's almost like they want to go back to it.
No, they love it as their image of like, this is how women are today, even though this is 60
Or it's like an idol.
Years ago.
It's an idol in their religion. This is the age.
It's like
the age of oppression.
They didn't think of like peasant women in the fucking dark ages. No, they didn't have it bad. Because
in the 50s, actually prior to the 50s, I'm not so sure about the 50s, but in that era, they discriminated against bachelor men. So it wasn't actually discrimination against women, it was discrimination against anybody who isn't supporting a woman through their labor directly. So, you know, if you were a bachelor man, and I've seen the stuff that they put out, I mean, and these guys had nothing to support them. They didn't have a husband who was going to feed them. So often when they didn't get a job, they went and they died in a ditch somewhere. And that was the reality that men faced during that time. If you're going to drag up the age of oppression to prove a point today, then you should drag up everything about that age of oppression, not just what's convenient.
I think it's a wake-up call to the United States that 1 in 3 working women in this country are in economic peril.
What? Wait, what does that mean?
what
1 in
is-
3 mean is what?
Peril.
So that means that even women who are working are in the they're walking on a pinhead between, like on a tightrope where they could easily lose their job. Is that what that means?
Women make up 64% of minimum wage workers. Well, that doesn't really mean anything because men could make up X amount of people who are earning absolutely fucking nothing. I learned a statistic that there's a whole bunch of men, there's like almost as many as were during the Depression, out of work, permanently out of work, making nothing.
Yeah, let's find out how many men are not working and are not receiving benefits from the government and don't have a home.
Yeah, equal is equal. Why can't we see the men's stats here?
Yeah.
Bloomberg analyzed U.S. Census data and found that median earnings for women were lower than those for men in 99.6% of all major occupation categories.
median, by the way, that median is different from mean, which means there could be shitloads on either side, but they've taken the one in the middle rather than a mean is where you take everything and get the average of it. A median is just the middle of the list.
And also, this is not men make more than women in 99.9% of all. This isn't by hour.
Well, look at where it's from. Institute for Women's Policy Research.
Oh,
well, that's not biased. But seriously, if they look at the per hour wage, women are making more per hour.
Yeah, especially in like the middle management jobs. Women out earn men.
Yeah. So if women actually wanted to work more, they would make more money than men, significantly more. But they don't.
Most men and most women are still relatively traditional. So a woman will work a job, middle of the road, make more money than a man, but only until she meets a man that makes more than she does so that she can quit her job and become a mother. So, and then even then, then the fact that she quit at whatever age it was that she met a man and got married to him and started a family, that will also get factored into this crazy statistic, because they'll look at her and say, well, she only worked until this point, and so the total that she earned is only X, but the guy she married, he worked his whole life until he died, so he earned way more than she did, and it's unfair to her, even though she was pretty much taken care of.
Do you think they're going to bring up the time gap at any point in this movie?
No.
The 4 extra years that women get
No.
only on average?
Well,
mean average?
Actually, that doesn't really capture the true enormity of it, because it's more like 15 when you look at it. 75.
Taking the mean instead of the median, eh?
Yeah, well, 75, most men, they won't live much past 75, whereas a more significant body of women will. Regardless, I wish they had broke it down to wage per
You mean
hour.
you wish they were more honest?
Yeah, I wish they were more honest.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
What it is about is the systematic discrimination against women at Walmart in pay and promotions, which often go hand in hand. So women are being paid less for doing the same jobs as men.
Okay, I just gotta stop this because that sound in the back is really irritating.
It's like out of the Dark Knight whenever the Joker was around.
I know, it's just really fucking getting on my nerves.
I'll say this. I wonder, well, first of all, if that's really happening, it's illegal. We already have something in place for that.
Yep.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
Equal Pay Act of 1963?
Yes. So.
Yeah, also, you'll notice that when Rosa Parks sat in the white section, what she did was illegal, not forcing her to sit in the black section. That wasn't illegal. So this is a completely different situation than a lot of the stuff the civil rights movement was dealing with. There is a law against this. They failed to prove their case.
Well, we don't know. Did they fail the case?
Yeah,
because
they
if
did.
they failed the case, like if this woman did not get reparations or whatever,
I'm fairly certain that the Walmart case was
won by Walmart.
won by Walmart.
We could look it up.
Okay.
Dukes versus Walmart.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think they're probably going to say
Well,
that.
if they won, then
And this
maybe
is
they
civil
didn't. Maybe
case.
they weren't breaking any laws. Is that possible?
Yeah, maybe the women weren't working as many hours. And maybe they weren't advancing to the same level in the management position because they weren't working as many hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of them probably get sort of customer-facing roles, particularly the greeters. I imagine women get given greeter roles more than men for reasons I assume are obvious. People are simply more at ease with women saying hello than men. Right?
With men stocking shelves and moving pallet jacks around and
Driving the trucks and
Yeah, all
doing
of
the more dangerous stuff.
Yeah,
And also being expected to do that stuff.
what's the injury gap at Walmart in employment in Walmart? Did you consider an injury gap before you made the statistic? But let's continue.
It's very hard to prove state of mind. It's why we lost Walmart.
Gloria Steinem, drink.
Wait.
Very hard to prove state of mind. Have any idea what kind of can of worms you're opening up there, Gloria?
Oh, well, I'm sure she is. Like,
So they lost the case despite going all the way to Supreme Court. Must be discrimination. That's the only answer.
The Supreme Court has not been willing to scrutinize sex-based classifications under that high level of protection. Instead, the Supreme Court has created a sort of special intermediate test, for women.
Oh my God. Women are having, or at least these women, are having victimhood envy because race is considered to be, verifiably, discrimination against race has resulted in dead bodies. I'm afraid to say that that's not so with gender. Women is usually a protective factor against violence. In fact, almost always a protective factor against violence. So they want to have the same protections as legitimately disenfranchised groups throughout history.
yeah, they need more oppression points.
And they get like a middle ground. Even though the only laws that you can point to now actually discriminate against men. And that's why they lost their case with Walmart, because they had to prove intent. Whereas if they had been in a class action lawsuit for, I guess, black employees, they wouldn't have had to prove intent.
There you go.
That's what
So
this
that's
is
what
about.
that's the argument they're making.
And they think that the Equal Rights Amendment will make that happen. That they will get strict liability.
Sex or gender is the only class.
She's wearing those crazy shoes again.
Yeah.
I think that's her outfit for the film.
That's her bag.
That's her jam.
That's her jam.
Those are the heels you stick up the mouth of a man like an apple in the mouth of a pig. Sorry to bring up Dworkin again, Liana.
Let's see how intermediate scrutiny plays out.
When strict scrutiny is applied, the litigant has an 80% chance of winning. When intermediate scrutiny is applied, the litigant alleging sex discrimination has a 50-50 chance of winning.
So what happens when it's a man? Because if it's a woman, it's 50-50. If it's a protected group, a protected racial, ethnic, or religious group, It's 80%. So what happens if it's a man? Oh, that's right. They don't get a freaking trial at all.
It's zero.
It's zero. And this is gender discrimination.
The problem is people using the laws too much. That we need to somehow make it harder for people to get to their day in court, rather than make the laws actually work for people.
It's almost like they feel like the legal system is a tool for them to use.
I'm really lost here. Do American women have protection from discrimination in the workplace or not?
You have greater protection. You get a 50-50 chance. What do men get?
The number one workplace problem that women still face is harassment because of their sex.
What? Wait, how did we get there?
Well, that's because they don't face death or injury. And also, I'd like to point you to statistics that Tildeer got from somewhere, wherever he finds the statistics. I mean, they're reputable sources, but it's amazing how he can ferret out these things. Apparently, when you divide sexual harassment cases into founded and unfounded, the rate at which men bring up sexual harassment is comparable to the rate at which women do. And there is, I believe, a class action lawsuit in the works. I don't know who against who, but it is by employees, male employees, that their sexual harassment claims were not taken seriously. That, I believe. And I hope that they manage to get a better chance. I wish that they had the women's chance for a civil lawsuit in this instance. I hope that they get a 50-50. Probably they won't.
And harassment is such a subjective term, and they go further than that. They go to bullying. I worked for the Royal Mail, and they don't call it harassment, but they do have bullying policies. Like, if you've been bullied at work, go and speak to the manager. I'm like, is this a fucking high school or what? Why are you calling it bullying? It's even more subjective than harassment.
Yeah.
And if that's your biggest problem at the workplace, then yeah, you're doing all right.
Because it was always interpreted that each paycheck was a discriminatory act, and that it could not only go forward, but it could go back from the beginning of that discrimination, right? Yes. No, they came along and said it had to be 180 days from the day you were hired. So they gutted the act. That, you know what I mean by gutted the act?
The entire outrage of these people based on this is based on the fact that they're just assuming that this is a thing that affects women worse, and there's no evidence that that's the case.
Yep.
And that this law is somehow affects women worse because the issue itself affects women worse. There's so many assumptions here. I don't even know what she's getting outraged at.
Mm-hmm.
Why right now parking lot attendants, who are mostly male, make more than childcare attendants, who are mostly female. Not because we care more about our cars than about our children, but because one group is overwhelmingly female and the other is overwhelmingly male.
How the fuck do you know that? Gloria, how do you know that that's the reason? Like, how do you get to that conclusion that the reason why daycare people are paid less than, did she say parking lot attendants? How can that be discrimination just because there's more male parking?
It could be a lot to do with supply and demand. Not many people want to be, car park attendants. Quite a lot of people, start babysitting at an early age, and they find it's what they're good at. Dare I say, what they enjoy. So the market gets flooded with people who want to look after children, but people who want to look after cars are still quite scarce.
Yeah, I used to be a parking attendant. The money was good, but you had to have a driver's license because you had to park the cars. And a lot of it was based on, it got really intense, the customers, you'd be running all over the parking lot, driving, getting the car. And I'm not saying it's not like a valet. I mean, like, if you operate a parking lot, you had to do things like that. You had to move people's cars. You had to work overnight shifts, which I bet Gloria Steinem was including in that, because I used to work the overnight shift, and typically people who work that shift get paid more because they're working overnight. Daycare professionals don't do that. So, I mean, I bet if they factor in the fact that there's actually a longer overall daily shift where you have a morning, an evening, and an overnight, compared to daycare workers, which may only have like one shift, the 9 to 2 or whatever it is, then yeah, if you add all of the salary together of the daycare people and the parking lot attendants, you're gonna.
Well, but here's the other thing: parking, like you were saying, parking lot attendants have to take orders and get yelled at by people that they have to serve. Daycare attendants get to give the orders.
They're bending over at the waist, putting DVDs and DVD players.
Yeah, but they are the ones who are telling the kids what to do. There's sort of a bit of a difference there. There's more emotional labor dealing with a customer yelling in your face.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of female coworkers?
No.
Did you discriminate against any women that wanted to be a park attendant or whatever?
No, I didn't care. We just didn't see them. Women didn't want to do that job.
That's what it comes down to. Men do the jobs that no one wants to do.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do them, therefore they earn more.
Now, in order to prove discrimination, even if you apply the 14th Amendment to sex discrimination, which is extremely rare, you have to prove that the person intended to discriminate.
Yes! I can't believe that Gloria Steinem. Well, I can't actually believe that Gloria Steinem.
My God, we live
cannot
in
believe the
democracy.
words coming out of her own mouth. You actually have to prove that people meant to discriminate. Otherwise, it's not discrimination. Wow.
If it isn't intent, then it's some other factor, usually under the woman's control.
Wow, this is
once
moronic.
again, I'm struck by the fact that if we just demolished democracy and the legal system and just created a rule of mob, that they would be much happier.
I think so.
Applying to both sex discrimination. Sorry to tell you that. No, that's fine. I'm happy to. But
You know, if indeed the current society has come to different views, that's fine. Certainly, the Constitution.
Wow, that edit was really.
I know.
that
I'm
was
saying.
neat.
No, this is just shoddy. God, what? All those feminist dollars.
Fucking get a B-roll.
We need some B-roll up in here.
This is the most corporate court that we have ever had.
And corporations are really men.
Yeah, corporations are men. Because they're people. And women aren't those things.
At Google, Apple, and Twitter, the company-wide proportions of women in the workforce all stand at 30%.
Okay, let me get this straight. Corporations make it so that women are paid less, but then they hire less women.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't they want to? Oh, for fuck's
Carry
sake! Wouldn't they want to just hire all the men? I mean, I know that everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's still debunked," and which it hasn't been. Saying that that's wrong isn't debunking. If you're saying that corporations only care about the bottom line and they don't have to pay women as much and they get absolutely as much out of them, they would never hire men. Because I can tell you one thing. There is no way that they favor men, that they would rather look at a man or benefit a man. I really don't think that's the case.
We're going to go through and we're going to make sure that each and every woman has been evaluated against each and every man, and they are equal.
And while corporate personal responsibility is critical,
They're slowly developing faces. Look, they've got eyes now. The dollars.
Oh yeah, dollar sign eyes.
we cannot count on the kindness of employers, especially when there are so few women at the top.
Well, then maybe women should start making their own companies and hiring only
Didn't
women.
that man just say he was going to go through and make sure?
But he's a man.
If you took away the automatic presumption of male malfeasance, how much of a fucking documentary would these women have? Like, if you couldn't just get away with saying, well, we can presume bad faith on the part of men.
Well, they wouldn't have a documentary.
I keep looking at you.
Yeah, I know. I feel compelled to answer.
Yeah.
This has to work under the assumption that men mean to do everything that happens to women. Otherwise, they don't have an argument.
Yeah, but I guess that's the problem they have with proving intent. They just assume intent.
Yeah.
Why should they have to prove it?
It's a foregone conclusion.
It's a foregone conclusion. Men intend to harm women because, you're sociopaths.
Yeah.
You're sociopaths.
And then you're asking us to prove it.
Wow, my
It's
God.
crazy. It's like the
crazy
game
talk.
is rigged against us.
Men hate
because
women.
you actually operate the laws and the governments and the CEOs, and you want us to prove it to you. Because men are a group.
And all these hundreds of CEOs and Fortune 500 men, what are they? Where does their money go? On their gay husbands? It largely goes. They can't spend it all because there's a sick amount of money. A lot of it goes on taxes, which goes to the government. And who does the government spend money on? Oh, it must be men. The rest of it goes, back into the company or gets trickled down.
Or they pay taxes and it goes to women.
Yeah, like I said.
I don't even understand why the feminists hate us so much. All we want is for women to earn as much as men and pay as much taxes and get exactly the same amount out of government. Equal services.
Or as little.
Or as little.
If they're going to be against it.
Yep. No, we want everything equal across the board. And you seem to have an incredible problem with that. Like, if you want women to earn, you got to outweigh the incentives for them not to earn. And the biggest one, unfortunately, is going to be a very intractable one. Because the biggest incentive for men to earn, which is statistically proven, is that they want to have a partner. And women want them to have a job that pays more than they do. That's... This is like the spending gap. The wage gap is like the beauty ideal. Men are trying to earn beauty. They're trying to earn sexual desirability so they can have a partner. So they go and they work and they earn more so they can have a partner. It's the same fucking thing that women do when they put on cosmetics and a girdle. And yet, somehow, the expectation that men earn more is male privilege and patriarchy, but the expectation that a woman wear a girdle is oppression.
Yeah, men are the most of the richest people in the world, but does that mean they're all the best living people in the world? Because their families live just as well as them. They have access to exactly the same luxuries as those men. You might say they don't have as much power as the men because those men control the money, but you just wait until they divorce them and they get half the fucking money and see much power they have when they're appealing to the government.
Yeah, I mean, you got the power where it matters. You want women to be CEOs? Well, stop soft pedaling their agency. Maybe we can get it a little bit more equal. I don't think that we'll get it exactly equal because it doesn't really play out that way. But there was a point in time where these things were significantly less of a problem. In the 80s, before you guys started pumping out this toxic waste of denying women's agency or making women out to be victims of society. And then suddenly all of these numbers started dropping. I wonder why.
So why were our laws treating corporate people better than female people? I decided to fly to Washington, D.C. to get to the bottom of it.
I love how that's all they do. They go to the top.
Maybe that's, yeah.
Because the men at the top have all the answers.
Maybe that's why they brought corporations in, because if they brought men in, like they
Yeah, if they went to like a construction worker or a fucking, sewer worker or a coal miner or something.
That was kind of a weird move, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a weird move.
Let's go to Washington and talk about corporations. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. Men are erased as people, and they just become an institution. And this is the weird thing. Okay, I'm going to bring up the argument with Islam that I've noticed. A lot of the people who are really, really virulently anti-Islamic, and they aren't actually anti-Islamic, they're just anti-Muslim men, they equate Muslim men to Islam. She is equating corporations to men. This is the law is men. Corporations are men.
The government is men.
The government is men. And those squishy upright slugs that occupy her world that have penises.
Yeah, the guy who drives her truck and...
Yeah, they don't exist. It's just everybody, all the institution at the top. Even though these guys really don't control their institution. I mean, I can give you an example in history of slaves. A slave group basically they're not controlling, but running everything in a society. But they weren't in control of it. They were pretty much all of the white collar, all of the skilled trades, most of the really high, powerful politicians, the military leaders, but they were still slaves. You can be a slave and a CEO. I mean, if you use the anachronism back there, you could be a slave and a CEO. You could be a slave and a general. You could be a slave and a president. You can still be a slave.
Sorry. And to frame it in something you all might understand, like Marxism, the proletariat are the people who have to work. The bourgeoisie are the people who don't have to work. Remind me again who the women are?
They don't. Well, you know what?
That's settled.
That's settled. Holy shit! Oh, what's the point? Let's liquidate this shit. Well, patriarchy, manifestation of the patriarchy.
We have failed.
Physical,
Apparently, they're wrong.
We
Silly
won.
women, you're wrong.
We won.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Most economists and sociologists say that you need a 30% floor to really have an impact. I think we have our work cut out for us.
Might it be another one of those jobs that no one actually wants to do, so men do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming that
But again,
politicians don't even do things on behalf of women, whether they're male or not.
Yeah, politicians don't do things on behalf of women.
Yeah.
That's impossible. That's impossible. Politicians don't serve their
It's not
constituency.
real.
No, it doesn't happen.
Well, there are cases where they don't. Anyway, I can email you a list if you don't lose it. I'll delete.
In the original Constitution, they purposely excluded women. That's the history. We can deny that it existed, but it did.
No, but seriously, those guys, when presumed, I mean, there was very little space between the guys who signed the Constitution and the people who were, then the men who fought for it. Physically fought for it, took the risks, and risked the potential violence to make it happen.
Yep.
You guys are obnoxious and entitled. If I fight for something, you guys don't deserve any part of it.
This Constitution was written at a time when we had slavery, and the status of wives, the legal status of wives, was the model for the legal status of slaves.
What?
Yeah, that reaction is very appropriate. You get it. That's ridiculous. Oh my God. Slaves. They had slaves, right? And they had wives, so obviously it was the same.
Where the hell are they getting this from? I mean, I'm imagining that it's some sort of twisting of something, because I don't recognize this from Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England, which
Isn't
would
this
have...
just revisionist history? This is just what feminists do. They basically go back and they say, every great thing that America has done, every man who did anything great, here's all the bad stuff to basically undermine all of that. And some of it's made up, some of it's exaggerated, some of it is, intentionally just lied about or misrepresented. But the goal is to say America was never great. And in this regard, it's all about history of sexism, which was just like slavery, which was just like racism, which was just like colonialism, which was just like the genocide of the Indians and all these other things, all of them the same. And just so that you can hate this country. That's what I think. That's what it is. And
hate men.
she's
anyway.
a part of it. Yeah, well, because men are responsible for all of it.
Hate white men.
They started every war ever. They did everything bad.
I don't remember being this exhausted with the mask you live in.
No, because we could laugh at its absurdity and we could yell at a guy.
This feels like you're slowly sinking.
This is just
slowly sinking into the swamp of sadness.
Is it really bad that I find? Is it really bad that I find that the mask you live in, because
Fight against the sadness, Artex.
It had mostly men in it. It was a better movie. Those men gave better performances than these women. is that
That's discrimination.
She looks like she's giving head to a stinky chode.
So now the mosque you live in it sort of broke it up with stories, various stories about men in various places, and that was broken up by fairly long bits of interview. This has just been nothing but gish gallop the whole time.
Yeah. It's very difficult
It's
to deal with.
garbage.
It's wet garbage. Hot, wet garbage.
Because we
Oh
were.
my God, did you see that?
Wait, did she say anything?
Nope.
What? It was just a clip of her going,
Oh! Well, because we needed to see how shocked she was at the idea of this. So that when Gloria Steinem says women were just like slaves, and she goes, oh my God, and those men wrote the Constitution.
Legal status of slaves. Because we were.
Let's not forget, she's an actress.
Slaves. Because slaves. Because slaves.